The Panasonic S5 was a really nice full package hybrid camera that was not only compact, but great for people who wanted to juggle around photography and video. It did have its little quirks, and one of those quirks was the autofocus system, which borrows the same DFD system that's across the S series range. Now, I'm happy to say that Panasonic have upgraded from what was already a great package from the S5 to the S5 II with a slew of upgrades, which we're going to go over in this video. Now, before we slap on a lens and take the S5 II out for a spin, let's go over the ergonomics on the Panasonic S5 II. Now, if you're looking at this camera compared to the S5, they're quite similar. However, there are a couple little changes. Firstly, you'll notice at the top, we've got a cooling fan intake. Basically, it will take in the hot air and bust it out of the dials to keep your camera nice and cool when you're shooting in video. As a result, you get to shoot unlimited video record time. The only limit is your battery or your power source. So if you're going to record for a long period of time, you can use the dedicated USB-C port on the side of the camera to achieve this. Now, the only two video types that you won't get unlimited record time out of this is using it in 6K 30 or 5.9K 30. Otherwise, the rest of the other video formats, you'll be able to record for an unlimited period of time. The second major update is the electronic viewfinder, which has now been upgraded to a 3.69 million dot EVF, which puts it on par with most of its competitors. Now, one of my favorite little quirks with the EVF is the new placement of the eye sensor. So the eye sensor has now been moved to the side to the top, meaning you're going to have less of those moments that you'll shut off your screen randomly when you're using your thumb to change your settings, and really it will only swap if you put it up against your face. So that is one thing that I truly love, and it's such a small change in position, but it makes such a big difference. The third major change, we have a revamped joystick. So the joystick can now move 8 ways instead of 4 ways, so you can move diagonally. This basically just speeds up if you're trying to change focus points and navigate around the menu. It just makes it a lot faster and more seamless. Now, in terms of the rest of the body, it's pretty similar. The only other major change is that we've got the new neck strap hooks. They're not those fiddly little triangle things anymore. They're nice and solid and built into the camera. You've got all your standard dials, like your mode dial. You have your 3 buttons, which is on most Panasonic S-series cameras for white balance, ISO, and exposure comp. You have a dedicated record button as well. And if you look on the side of the camera, you have your mic port, your headphone port. You have a full-size HDMI port, as well as a USB-C port for charging. And basically, you'll be able to use the camera, as mentioned earlier, for unlimited power if you wish to record for those longer periods of time. At the bottom, it uses the same battery as well. You've got the BLK22. This is going to give you decent battery life when you're out on the field. Now, without further ado, let's chuck this bad boy on. We've got the Panasonic 50mm f1.4. We're going to put it on the S5 II and take it for a little spin. Now, one of the biggest updates and most exciting updates in the Panasonic S5 II is a slightly revamped sensor. So in the original S5, you had a 24 megapixel sensor, which is the same in the S5 II, however, with a slight update. It's got face detection points on it, which that gives you a much better and sophisticated autofocus system, which is something Panasonic fans have been crying out for all this time. Initial thoughts: when I've been shooting on this, I can really clearly see the difference in speed of autofocus, and it really picks up on where I want to focus really well. Now, this is coming from someone who's used the Panasonic S1 for a few years. I absolutely love that camera. One of my biggest qualms of it was the autofocus system. I would have a lot of back focusing issues, but so far, using it on the S5 II, the focus has been mint. I have enjoyed every second of it so far, and hopefully it'll do just as well in video, but we'll do a test of that in a second. I'm going to chuck this into subject detection mode and see if we can get that little bird. Dude, it's working so well. I'm so happy. So you can go from human, face, eye, or animal and human. Leave it as human. Cool thing is you turn it off as well if you just want standard focus, which we'll do.
Oh man.
Cool. Now, in terms of using the human detection autofocus mode, there's definitely a massive improvement in the S5 II. We have a little clip here that I've shot of Clyde of the autofocus working. Now, obviously, we're using a 50mm and Clyde got a little bit close, so it did punch out of focus a little bit, but it definitely recaptured it a lot faster than what I was familiar with in the older Pana S-series systems. It's great to see that it works just as well in continuous as it will in single, and I'm just totally stoked for anyone who shoots in autofocus for both photo and video, because this is a massive improvement. Now let's talk about the other photography features in the S5 II. Burst shooting. You can shoot up to 30 frames per second electronically or 7 frames per second mechanically. So you're not going to get some Olympic style shooting with the mechanical shutter. However, for most people, this will be more than enough to get your action shots. In terms of the in-body image stabilization, it has been updated and it's a lot better now. Using the camera handheld, it feels a lot more stable in the footage. I thought the Panasonic S-series already had good in-body image stabilization, especially paired with 2IS. But in the S5 II, the revamped IBIS is amazing. So any video shooter as well that likes shooting in handheld, it's going to deliver the goods for stabilization, especially when it comes to warp stabilization. Now, for those who froth a little bit more than 24 megapixels, it does have a high resolution mode in the camera to shoot up to 96 megapixels. Now, unfortunately, you can't do this handheld. Despite how good the in-body image stabilization is, you will require a tripod for it, but you can get a massively stacked high resolution photo if you do please. On to video. The S5 II has a massive update in terms of video. Firstly, you've got dual native ISO support, supporting ISO 640 and 4000, giving you a little bit more range in dynamic range, as well as versatility in multiple lighting scenarios, which I find awesome. Now, in terms of video formats that you can shoot this in, you've got a lot of versatility, as you would expect in a Panasonic camera. You can firstly shoot 6K open gate up to 30 frames per second, which basically utilizes the full 24 megapixel sensor to give you a really crisp and very data-filled image, so that you can do a lot with aspect ratios. You can crop in and out, and you've got a lot of capability when shooting in open gate, which is awesome. Now, in terms of your standard video codecs, you can shoot 4K up to 60, but note, if you do shoot anything above 30 frames per second, it does crop into Super 35. So if you are shooting in 4K at 30, that will utilize a uncropped image, but if you go 4K 60, it will go into a Super 35 format. Now, for those who do video in cinematic or high production scenarios, the S5 II does have support for anamorphic lenses. In addition to that, you have the ability to support user LUTs, as well as for those people who like color grading, you do have Vlog in the camera as well. All right, and what we're going to do is, in the S5 II, we're going to test the rolling shutter, as there was a little bit of rolling shutter from the previous model. Hopefully we'll see an improvement out of this, but from what I can tell, even though I'm getting a little bit dizzy, it does seem like there's a little bit of improvement. All right, so let's wrap up. Who do I think the S5 II is for? Now, if you're already an owner of the S5 and you're mainly using it for photography, if you feel like the extra phase detection, faster autofocus system will benefit for you, or the in-body image stabilization, then definitely jump to the S5 II. If you are a video person, however, going from the S5 II definitely, the autofocus improvement, the in-body image stabilization, and the extra video recording formats, and the anamorphic lens support, and so many more features, the S5 II is going to be a very nice upgrade. Now, if you're a person who is in the market for your first full frame camera, the S5 II is amazing value for what you're paying for the camera. Compared to other full frame cameras on the market, the S5 II has an amazing package, and now with reliable autofocus and better image stabilization, you're going to get amazing photos straight out of the camera, or video straight out of the camera as well, in a package that's not only affordable but compact, lightweight, and is going to last the test of time with its durable body, considering it's weather sealed, so it's going to be battered wherever you go on your travels or in your professional life. Now, if you have any questions on the Panasonic S5 II, pop them in the comments below or drop into our store in George Street, Sydney, Australia. Make sure to follow us on our socials on Facebook, Instagram, as well as our blog to stay up to date with our latest events and giveaways. And as always, if you enjoyed the video, hit the like button and the subscribe button to stay up to date with our future videos as we upload regularly.